right, so with that, I invite you to turn your video back on if you would like. Um, if you haven't already, please go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. I want to take a minute to kind of give you a sense of who you'll be hearing from today. And then my intention is to stop talking as soon as possible to turn it over to your peers in the local nonprofit scene so you can hear from them and their experience. Today, we are really fortunate to have Sarah Davenport from Vinegar Hill Magazine and the Charlottesville Inclusive Media Project, Tina Laroche from Camp Holiday Trails, and Lisa Woolfork from Black Women Stitch, talking us through their Catchafire experiences. Ayana Marcus, like I said, is a programs manager at CACF. She will be in the background handling tech issues and monitoring the Q&A. She was very, very involved last summer and fall as we were going through the Community Emergency Response Fund and the Community Recovery and Catalyst Fund, which the Catchafire program was a part of. So she is familiar with this program as well. And my name, as many of you know, I'm Ethan Tate. I'm a donor relations manager at CACF. Most of my time this month is focused on the Bama Works program and the Louisa County Community Fund, but I help to manage a bunch of donor-advised grant programs and scholarship programs at the foundation. So a quick preview of the agenda for today. We've already crossed one thing off, the intros. I want to talk a little bit about the Catchafire program history, the Community Foundation's own equity journey, and some of the statistics from this cohort of 182 organizations in this pilot program. Talk through the goals for today, and then really leave most of the time to hear from and ask questions of the power users as we talk about them. And then I have a small update at the end, just talking about what the future looks like. We all know that this was a pilot program, a bit of an experiment, and so I have a little bit of news about what might be coming down the pipe, and I'm happy that Nihat is here from Catchafire to help us do that as well. So a little bit of the history of this work. We have partnered with an organization to run surveys of both grant partners and grant applicants who did not receive funding to really hold us accountable to the community and make sure that our efforts at philanthropy are matching what the community really needs. We have learned a lot from those surveys, and we have taken action in ways that seem to make sense to address some of those needs. And Catchafire, I think, is one of those needs that we have recognized in the community as part of those surveys. So the relationship with Catchafire started before the pandemic, but the inequity that this pandemic and other events has just really highlighted the need for this kind of a service to be offered by us at the foundation. So in the Community Recovery and Catalyst Grant Program, the application window ran last summer. We made decisions in the fall, more applications than we've ever had to navigate, more requests than we've ever had to navigate, and also thankfully more funding leaving the door in a single grant program than we've ever had. The Catchafire program was a part of that conversation. And we really recognized that there was an unmet need for personalized, affordable capacity building opportunities, especially for smaller organizations. So as we were evaluating the applications for folks who were interested in Catchafire in that application process, we wanted to be explicit but not exclusive about the following categories. We wanted to focus on organizations that were led by people of color, organizations with small budgets, typically under $250,000, organizations with small staff, less than 6 full-time employees, and organizations serving the rural population. Looking at kind of the cross-section of all the organizations that CACF partners with, those seem to be the ones that had the greatest need for this kind of an opportunity and were kind of the best fit for the types of programs that Catchafire has. Like I said, there were 182 organizations in this pilot cohort, and you can see the investment on behalf of the foundation has paid off incredibly. Over $1.7 million worth of volunteer hours have gone into our community thanks to Catchafire volunteers. That's webinars, that's calls with professionals, that's kind of side-by-side collaborative projects. It is a whole variety of things that others today will talk about, but a huge value and really has kind of blown us away at how impactful it has been in our community. Well over 8,000 hours donated. 165 of the 182 organizations in this cohort have registered on Catchafire and have a profile out there. 99 of them have matched with a project or a volunteer. And you can see, just doing some basic math, that many organizations have had multiple successful projects with Catchafire volunteers in the platform that way. So the goals for today, we hope that folks here and folks who are seeing the recording later learn something about Catchafire from your peers, and that you see a way for your organization to benefit from the service in the next couple of months. We feel, and we hope that you feel more comfortable engaging with the platform down the road, and that can take a lot of different forms as others. So I'm going to stop talking now, thankfully, and turn it over first to Sarah Davenport and then to Tina Laroche with a couple of basic questions. Both Sarah and Tina have used Catchafire pretty significantly in the last couple of months and have some tips and tricks to pass on. And then we're going to save a good amount of time for Lisa Wolfort to walk through a presentation that she has created for us. I've gotten the preview, it is great, to kind of talk about her experience and some of the biggest tips she has learned. Lisa is not just the biggest user of Catchafire in this cohort. She nationwide might be one of the most prolific Catchafire posters and project matchers out there. So you are hearing not just from the best from our area, but one of the best in the world, quite literally. I'm very lucky to have her here as well. So with that, you may want to switch over to speaker view now and turn over to Sirad with those questions. Who are you? What's your organization doing in our area? What kinds of projects have you done with Catchafire? And what's one thing you wish you knew before getting into it that might have kind of eased your first couple of projects?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to be here to talk about Catchafire. I definitely want to double down on the shout out of Lisa, who it was actually my influencer, right? To like get me kind of activated. So Lisa's not only doing things kind of nationally, but helping us go deep locally also. I came to Catchafire, a little bit disappointed. I was like, oh, they're going to give us this little bit of money and give us this thing to make us feel good about not giving us the rest of the money. But, so I was a little like, disappointed. I was like, oh man, why don't they just, I hear it's worth this much, but why don't they just give us all of it? So, but I was able to shift and think about capacity and being able to expand and really understand that there's like extreme value for particularly the Charlottesville Inclusive Media Project, of which I'm a part of with Vinegar Hill Magazine, Charlottesville Tomorrow, and also, in my humble opinion, radio show. And, a couple of things that I wanted to, work on first, or that we wanted to work on first was just to test it out, right? And to really see if it was, kind of legit. And what I found, just from a systems perspective, just one of the best systems. Imagine this, when you have a meeting scheduled with a volunteer, the system actually gives you a call to make sure that you are like kind of logged in to the meeting and things of that nature. So just imagine, for your regular Zoom meetings, if you just got a call, so you never be late. So it's just amazing. And then the caliber of the people that are working in Catchafire is just amazing. And I'll just get to a few of the projects that we did right away. I'm gonna look at my screen so I make sure I get this right. But one of the projects that we did right on is I wanted to do an updated press kit. So of course in media, when you're trying to, have space for people to kind of, share advertisements or whatever, a public service announcement, making sure that you have a press kit available that looks good. I'm big on aesthetics, and I want my stuff to look tight. I want my stuff to look sharp and good. And these designers that they have at Catchafire are just amazing. So got a press kit done. Then wanted to, upgrade some social media assets. So, we wanted to do some social media quotes, like Instagram quotes and things like that. But we wanted to be really, bright and, really engaging. We were able to get one of the Catchafire volunteers to do that. So those were kind of like the test projects. And then things got a little deeper. I wanted to do an impact report. I was thinking about, especially Vinegar Hill Magazine, and I'm, making a long story short, is that we had, it's about 10 years of history, maybe a little more, even before I got on, supporting and working with Vinegar Hill Magazine. I was like, we need to archive and document this history. So there's like a project on template on, it's not a template, but there's like these project kind of modules that they have within Catchafire that you can choose from. And one of them was an impact report. And I was like, all right, we should try that. So was able to find a volunteer, actually, and the volunteers was in Virginia, was a Hampton University graduate. I was like, oh, this is like HBCU, it's all lining up. And just did an amazing job of pulling together like a 10-year history, just asked for some assets, guided us through the process of getting the copy ready for the report. And it just came out just amazing from the design and just the whole process. So that was one of the bigger things. And more recently, we did a market analysis because we wanted to talk about like, how do we grow our audience? Do we want to continue to remain local? Do we want to be regional, national? What does that look like? What are some of the steps? So we had some folks that have expertise in market analysis do an entire market analysis report. I just got that in. I haven't even read that closely, but it's just a very robust report. So those are the things that, have been helpful to us, and just the capacity is invaluable. I don't have time to do that, right? I'm doing this this work really, not even a part-time capacity, but kind of like a passion project capacity. So to have this level of capacity to build the infrastructure of a real kind of organization has been just tremendous. So what I wish I knew, I wish Lisa would have been my did my orientation before I started, because I was like halfway into it. And I was like, I don't know about this thing. And Lisa was like, no, this is legit. You need to press forward. And I was like, all right, well, Lisa said it. So kind of press forward. But that's what I wish. I think maybe a deeper, I think I did go to the original orientation, but I still didn't quite get it. So if there was something that I had more like a broader orientation, and then like the peer influencers from the beginning, because that's what got me to really engage and adopt the software, the system and the software and all of it. But it's turnkey. I love it. I think every nonprofit that needs expanded capacity, it's a no-brainer. So
that is excellent to hear, and I'm really happy to say that because we have had a successful first-year pilot program, we have a lot of folks who are able to be those kind of peer leaders and talk about all the great things kind of from a local perspective. I might be hiring you and Lisa and others to go door to door for the year 2 cohorts, just to really make sure people get it right out of the gate. Thank you, Sarah. Tina, how about you?
Great, thanks, Ethan. And so my name's Tina Laroche, and I'm the executive director of Camp Holiday Trails. We work with kids with medical needs and chronic illnesses throughout the Mid-Atlantic region. And I joined Sarah in saying, originally I was like, wait a second, I wrote a grant for some money and I got a grant for some volunteer help. But we've been big fans of Catchafire. So one of the things we did is we have a small staff team, but we gave permission to the entire team to access Catchafire and our board president. And we told them to play with it and just explore and then give me feedback. So that was a really big start for us. we've had a lot of successful projects that's amazing that Sarad found somebody in Virginia. We've had folks from across the country. We've done logo design. We were looking for a new mascot for our camp, which we got. We did market analysis. We did a board survey to measure board engagement. So lots of different programs, like intersecting with different parts of the organization. We have a facilities. One of our new projects we're going to propose actually today is we need a better way to kind of account for the work that we do on like facilities management software, but like a way to kind of account for the work that we're doing. Quickly, like one suggestion I would make, that Catchafire has workshops, and I've always been impressed with who they have presenting and the quality. And so that's something you can take advantage of. Also on the tool itself, I know one of the things that kind of put me off originally was I thought it would be a blank slate where I could just like Google, like, I need this, and then this would pop up. But they have some really great suggestions for you. I mean, they've done the work, right? They figured out what a lot of nonprofit organizations need, and so they've populated. And so you can search by skill, you can search by project. They have bundled projects where like 4 or 5 components are to like an annual report, which has a lot of components, right? So tap into that. But the very first thing, and I feel like Catchafire could actually broadcast this more, but when you log on, it says basically like, if you don't know what you want, call us for a consultation. So you get a human being on the phone and you can say, you can just like this is what's going on. And they will say, well, it sounds like you need some branding for your organization, or it sounds like you're really struggling with fundraising. I hear that frustration. And they will point you towards a couple key projects. So that's like I didn't realize that until late in the game, but how great that you can call and get someone to help you kind of figure it out. So that's my suggestions, or just I sort of look at all the different tools. I will say that when we worked with Catchafire, we did not choose volunteers. We let them find us, and people found us. But you can actually search through their group of volunteers and like identify people you want to work with. So there's different ways to do it. We were a bit passive and let people find us once we posted a project, but you can do it the flip version, which is go after people you think whose work you like. And so all that's posted there. So we don't have anybody on staff who can do the kind of design work and market study work. So this was like a multiplier of our hands and our skills, and that just multiplies our mission impact. So yeah, we've enjoyed working with it a lot. And like I said, I have a project to post later today.
Great. Thank you, Tina. I really appreciate that perspective as well. So Lisa is going to kind of walk everybody through the full experience. She has done a wide variety of projects through Catchafire, and she has some kind of step-by-step tutorials, for lack of a better word, to help us navigate the process for the first time, and hopefully be able to take on some of these projects that can reduce folks' stress and improve some of the work that y'all are doing in the community. So Lisa, to you.
Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for Catchafire. I'm going to share my screen and give a presentation, and my sound should be shared and everything. Actually, I did that before. Okay, so here we are. The presentation is called Getting the Most Out of Catchafire Without Doing the Most. I am someone who is kind of queen of doing the most, but my nonprofit is very, very small. You are looking at the entire staff. Her name is Lisa. And she prepares since 2019. Since 2019, I do a weekly podcast in addition to other things for the organization. So what I'd like to talk about today is to prepare for success and how I do that. I also want to show you how to list a project in 5 minutes. And there's a video of this, and then to talk about the workflow. The video might have a little hiccup in the middle. I've practiced a couple times, and both times it hiccups, so we will just proceed. We will proceed. Okay, so picture it. 1980, West Palm Beach, Florida, Christmas time. And I am a 10-year-old waiting for the most important aspect of Christmas. The Sears 1980 wish book. Now, a lot of y'all don't know what I'm talking about, but back in the day, there was a thing called Sears and Roebuck, which was an amazing store that sold absolutely everything, from toys to shoes to tires to batteries, everything. And it came in this catalog. And for the Christmas season, they would send you a wish book that you could pore over and circle the things that you wanted. And it was 1980. And what I wanted was the beautiful Barbie dream house with furniture, which, hallelujah, and thank my parents and Black Santa Claus, I absolutely got in 1980. I also got a pool and the Corvette. But this set me on the path for loving the Sears and Roebuck wish book, because you could select things and you would get them. Amazing. So when I went to the Catchafire orientation in October of 2020, that was my response. Here's my notes from the Catchafire onboarding. You can see I'm an analog person. I do a lot of stuff digitally, but I also take a lot of notes by hand. This is one of my notebooks. And you can see as I was writing, I was like, okay, who's here? Ebony's here, Tyler Manley, and he's the head of this. And this is about capacity building virtually and meaningful opportunity. Okay, this sounds good. Oh, wait, I could get it. And I'm so new, y'all, that I didn't even know what a SWOT was. I wrote it down and then asked later. And someone was like, oh, that's what it stands for. But here's the most important part. Note the circled comment. No limits on projects. I was so happy when I heard that I put a star next to it and wrote yay and added an exclamation mark and circled it for my notes. Nobody else is seeing these notes. I wanted to make sure that I knew what they were saying was the truth. So I have, since October of 2020, I have completed 101 Catchafire projects, which, and now that I'm looking at it, accounts for nearly a quarter total of all the projects that our region has completed. Yay me. My Catchafire projects so far have been divided into 4 categories: writing, and this is some of the stuff that I've asked people to write for me; the arts, and here's some of the stuff people have done for me; the website. We didn't have, Black Women Stitch did not have a website. We had no website. The project was founded on Instagram. It was organized through Instagram, and I built up a community on Instagram, which I have then transitioned into a larger public-facing organization through the podcast and stuff that we do weekly, and that's gained national recognition and beyond. And then tools and time. Tina was talking about the seminars that they do, and I highly recommend them. I did a webinar on Google Drive, and that has been incredibly helpful to me. And I also want to suggest some of the personnel projects. Like, I did a time management project with someone, and she worked with me for 8 weeks. We met every other week, and it was incredible. It was very, very helpful. So that's another type of support they offer. This is some of the things that I do in order to prepare for success. I write everything out in advance and essentially put it in a Google Drive. I write the thank you notes. I write the introductions, my introduction to volunteers. Imagine that this is the only communication they will ever hear from me. I want to give them everything they need for success from the very beginning. All of that is populated in the Google Drive. Everything lives there. And all I need to do is copy and paste, and then send links in emails, in canned emails, that direct volunteers to those resources. Let me show you what I mean. This is a short 5-minute video about how I do Catchafire projects. I'm hoping it's going to share. Oh wait, do I need to reload it? Pardon me. Thank you for your patience.
It is Lisa, and I am here to show you how I make Catchafire projects a little bit easier for me to manage. So I'm going to actually post a Catchafire project and show you some of the things that I've done that make it a bit easier for me. Mostly the big secret, Google Drive and copy and paste. I have less than 5 minutes to share this with you because I'm using the free version of Loom. So let's get started. Go to Catchafire. Go to your dashboard or just the main page. I know I want to post a project. So the project I want to post is going to be a transcription. So right here, I'll put in transcription and it will start to build in that. See, here we go. Transcription. Now, Catchafire is going to ask a series of questions about your readiness for the project. And I've done this a bunch of times, so I am absolutely ready. Click post project. In the meantime, while this is starting to load the deliverables of the project, I then go to my Google Drive. And here you can see I have a file with Catchafire project descriptions as well as feedback. So descriptions are just basically, I have the ads already written in advance for what I want to do and how to do it. So I know it's moving around, it's probably hopping you around a lot. But so here's my Catchafire project description. And this is what I want, this is what we need, and all of this is on one single page of my Google Drive. It has this section about the description of what we want. It has what the task is, what we have, why it's gonna save us money. And then I also have a direct request of people. And then if I want to solicit help without interviewing a volunteer, which I do not interview volunteers for transcription, I believe this is a skill that people can either do or not do, I have that all ready to go. So I'm gonna walk you through that in the remaining 3 minutes. So I'm gonna go here and photocopy, or not photocopy, copy details about what I need, paste. Yes, I'm sure. So I'll click next. Got it, I'm ready for the project. I don't need to, in terms of the resources, instead of filling in the blanks, I can write my own. I'll then go to the description here that says, we have audio and video transcriptions. Click next. Why is the project important? Here's why. This project will save us $1,300. This is what we'll do with it. And then we're ready to submit. Now, this gives you a chance to edit. And what I realize I've done here is I made a mistake. I put in the wrong description. I don't want 3 transcripts. I just want 1. So I'll go back to edit, delete this one, put in the right one, save changes. Now I can post this project. Now, what Catchafire will now do is suggest volunteers who would be good people to have to do this task. I'll go back to the sheet of the document and then say, hello, please consider applying to our project. And this is a way to individually invite people. And then I just look through folks who I think might be good, people who are good at transcriptions. I'll click on their profiles, invite to apply, copy and paste, send request. And now I should be all set. I've invited 1 person to apply. I will monitor the rest of the applications. I will probably invite a few more people to apply. And then once they apply, and I believe that they'll be good for it, I send them all the directions for what to do. So that's how to post a project in 5 minutes or less. I hope this has been helpful.
Okay. So that just to go over the workflow, build your Google Docs and folders with project listings and descriptions, and then include the content that volunteers will need to access. It's going to depend on whatever the project is, but for transcripts, I give people a file that includes our style guide that has a list of frequently misspelled terms, and make sure you capitalize the B in Black when you're referring to a person. For art projects, it includes our GIFs, our cover art, our brand colors, and stuff like that. For video people, it includes templates and screenshots of what I want things to look like. So all of that is listed in there. And then the second step is to copy and paste the project listing into the Catchafire template. And then to create on your own, and I have another video about this if anyone is interested, create an email template for volunteers. And this is just basically, I'm sure there's a way to do this really in Google Drive, in Google, what's that Google thing that people get, this kind of Google platform? I don't have it. But anyway, I have a bunch of emails in the drafts mailbox of my Google form, my Google thing, and my Google account. And so essentially I've written up all these emails already. And all I need to do is when I get the name and email address of a Catchafire volunteer, I put their email in the to form, the to portion, and then I put their name and I say, hello, blank. And then I put a link to the file that they need and then send it. And then everything else is ready to go, and it operates pretty much automatically from there. This is an example of some of the brand assets that we have. We had these before we started working with Catchafire. These are GIFs that we use in social media and other things. I have put them in the folder so that people who are working on art for us know what the brand colors are, know what our style is like, know, a little bit of our visual vocabulary. And this is helpful because I worked with 2 artists, well, more than 2, but I'm going to show you a couple of projects that people have done. This is the Black Women Stitch 2021 calendar. I did this with the Catchafire volunteer in November of last year. This person volunteered and created 12 original portraits based on she and I talked back and forth, and I was like, wouldn't it be great to start the calendar with a woman working on something, and then throughout the year she works on it. At the end of the year, she has this rack of garments that she's created. And so that's the vision for this calendar. And you can see the colors that she uses are very much like the colors that we like, that are some of the colors for Black Women Stitch. This is a project that just got finished a few days ago. This is our special promo image for Juneteenth. The Stitch Please podcast will be celebrating Juneteenth all month long under the umbrella of creative liberation. And so every episode in June is about creative liberation. I'm working right now on a face-to-face, forward-facing event through Zoom about creative liberation. And we just talked about it, and this is what she did. And I made a few suggestions. I put the quote that's animating our month. It's a quote from Alexis Pauline Gumbs, and it says, "Freedom isn't a secret, it is a practice." And this is what we came up with. And I thought it was absolutely beautiful. We changed a couple colors, changed her nail polish, but other than that, this volunteer did this and it took 3 days. It felt miraculous to me. Here's also some feedback from a volunteer who worked with me on transcriptions recently. I very much enjoyed working with Lisa and her organization. Not only did I grow my knowledge on a range of issues, but it was also an incredibly pleasant experience. Lisa was immensely welcoming and supportive at every step, and the energy she brought when we communicated was beyond spectacular. I would most definitely volunteer for Black Women Stitch again in the future. This is someone who 99%, if not 100, of our communications was through the cut and paste process I just walked you through. I think he did write to me because he had confusion about a particular word, or maybe he had a delay, and I wrote back. But all of this came from the setup that I just walked you through, so that people can feel appreciated and valued. And I think that's absolutely important. So I'm at the end of my time. Congratulations to me for staying on time as well. And I'm totally happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate your expertise as a world leader in Catchafire use. If folks have questions, we can go right to them. I want to highlight Niat Daniel, who is on the call with us, I believe calling in from the West Coast. Thank you for joining us early your time. I was wondering if you could just quickly summarize kind of what does a typical Catchafire project look like as far as commitment from the volunteers and who those volunteers are. I think some people know that already, but it's always worth reiterating kind of what that framework looks like and how you've landed on those 160-ish kind of canned projects that are ready to go.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Glad to see all of you and get a sense of who you all are and the work that you do. We miss doing in-person events and getting to meet people and like feel the community. So this really helps. And thank you to the organizations that spoke. That was honestly a lot of the points that I would have given, you all nailed, from the pre-scoped projects to bundles. I honestly couldn't have done it better. So thank you. Thank you all. Okay, Ethan, your questions. So one thing, I am feeling under the weather today. I got the second dose, so I'm a little bit foggy. So we might have to break the question into chunks. So I think your question was, and the last one was about the projects and how we've landed on them. So I can answer that one first. So it was the volunteers, project menu, and the first one was about the typical project. Okay. So the way that Catchafire works is exactly like folks have said already, where we are focused on capacity building projects. We want it to be as smooth as possible for both sides so that both parties understand what they're walking into and we're setting everyone up for success. That's part of why we have so much already done with the scoping, and that's a little bit of what has made Catchafire different. Catchafire just turned 10 last fall. So that is all very intentional, something we take really seriously. So the only like hard and fast rules, or like the core essence of it, is that projects have to be able to be done virtually so that people can be from everywhere. You might have someone that's in your community, and that's great too. And that it has like a firm timeline has been something we wanted. If people decide that they want to continue working together, that's great. There's no problem with that at all. But we don't want people to go in with that expectation and timelines to get messy and there just to be, misunderstandings. So the projects really vary in length. So for example, if you are looking for someone to edit one of your PowerPoint presentations, that might be a fast one. Or if you're looking for someone to write a letter to your donors, that one could probably be done in a week, maybe 2 weeks. Versus if you are looking for someone to revamp your website or customize a Salesforce database where you keep all of your donor information, that could take months. So it really depends on what you're looking for, and the volunteers will know that. So when you look into the project, it will also give you that information. So you'll know, based on our research and what we've experienced, what our estimate of how much time it will take for the project and how much it'll take for both sides, so that you understand as an organization what it'll take for you to do the project, and for the volunteer to understand what they're getting themselves into as well. So that's a little bit about what a typical project length looks like. In terms of the volunteers, who they are, we have volunteers from all over. And this is the core of what Catchafire does, is helping volunteers who probably would never have found you and found your work to be able to find you. And that's what I was thinking about, Lisa, with the last testimonial you posted, was like, I wonder if this volunteer would have known you or your work without this really amazing opportunity. And so that's where the volunteers come from, is a range. So on one side, we've got some corporate partnerships through companies like Viacom, Merck, Patagonia. Sometimes those folks want to be able to give back at their jobs, particularly I think marketing folks who, they're in a very like corporate world and they want to be creative and give back. Sometimes people get time off for work to volunteer. And then many of our volunteers, I think the majority come from LinkedIn. So people who want to volunteer with their skill set in mind particularly, that of course people can find something, maybe more generic, but for a lot of people who've spent time developing their professional skills, it feels really good to them. If they are an accountant, it feels good to them to be able to be an accountant, but for good. So that's generally how people find it. And those volunteers really range. So they might be people who are younger and have always liked doing this type of work and they're getting into it. You might see folks who are mid-career and are, practicing it, doing it, folks that are taking time off. We've seen that. And also, I think a fair amount of people who are retirees, who have just left the workforce and worked at nonprofits or at kind of adjacent type of companies, and are still kind of in that productive season. So we see a pretty wide range of volunteers. And so what's really great about Catchafire is through the application process, these volunteers are applying to your project and to your organization. So they have to say how they are qualified for this type of work and why they want to do it. So those are two, I think, really important criteria that can help speak to either the passion or the experience that might work best for you. And then it's up to you to decide. In many cases, especially for graphic design, they might be able to link to their portfolio, or you might be able to look at their LinkedIn to get a sense of who they are in the world and the type of work that they do. You can also see testimonials. So I know particularly this cohort, I know Lisa's really good about this, is you'll see people, volunteers who have testimonial from previous projects that they've worked on will have a blurb, and they'll say, Joe was really excellent at, transcribing, yada, yada. And that can help too, as you try to decide who you want to work with. We have, I think the number one thing that all of us will say at Catchafire is we want nonprofits to be in the driver's seat. So it's really your choice. You can be as picky as you want. We have a lot of volunteers. So pass on whoever you want for whatever reason you want. We'll take care of all of that. You shouldn't feel weird about that. I know sometimes it can feel weird. But that's totally fine. We have a lot of volunteers. So that's what I'll say about volunteers. We have really incredible ones who have done incredible work and have gone on to become board members, donors. Some folks have ended up working at that nonprofit down the road. There's a long-standing joke at Catchafire that's the one thing we're waiting for is a marriage, a wedding, but we haven't seen it yet. So if you go to a webinar, you'll hear that joke. So sorry if I've ruined that for you. As for the project menu, so many people at Catchafire have worked at nonprofits, including myself, and just spend time doing that work, spend time volunteering, spending time doing all of this type of learning and peer learning and speaking to nonprofits. So anytime that you want to speak or have a suggestion, always feel free to get in touch. We're open to that feedback. So we're constantly adding projects and tweaking ones that are existing. So even if you've looked before, it's a good idea to just go to Catchafire's menu and scroll through. There's different ways of looking at it and filtering it because we're evaluating it. So we're evaluating it based on the feedback that we're getting from organizations, from volunteers, and the data too. So are these projects matching? Are they going well? If they're not, then our team meets, I think bi-weekly. There's a small team at Catchafire that meets specifically just for the project menu to look at these projects and determine, are they right? In some cases, the project may not be right, or maybe we're not setting people up for success enough. We'll adjust where we can. If it's not working, it's not working. We'll take it down. So any of the projects that you see on there are ones that we've got, we're either trying or have pretty good, reason to believe that it's working. And that's how we go from there. Most of the projects are pretty tried and true. I've seen a couple get kind of adjusted or moved based on where we feel like folks are. But that's kind of the intentionality behind it. We're an organization that is constantly always trying to get better and listen and learn. So if you've got ideas or want to be in touch for any reason, don't hesitate to reach out. We love doing one-on-one calls. We always say, we won't get tired of hearing from you. Don't feel like we will. You'll get bored of us before the other way around. So don't feel like you're doing this alone or in this work alone, really, because we see all of us in this kind of as doing the work. I think Ethan, I answered your main points.
Nailed it. Thank you. Yes. Well, and I will reiterate Tina's idea of just reaching out and calling and doing a brain dump with the folks at Catchafire. They are responsive and can really kind of help sort through what you are navigating, because they have likely navigated that themselves. We have a couple minutes left. I'm happy to leave the floor open for anybody else that might have questions of any of the presenters before we wrap up at 12:59.
Yeah, Ethan, it's Ayana. There are a couple of questions in the chat. One question was already answered. A grantee or someone asked, how long do grantees have access to Catchafire for this cohort? And I mentioned it was through September of this year. And Niyat can correct me if I'm wrong, but it should be through the month of September.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ayana.
Yeah. Yeah, you can comment more on that. And then another question is from Joe Griffith. A couple of projects we would like to do would require a fairly deep dive into our community demographics and preferences in terms of the arts. We don't have this data. Would a Catchafire volunteer be able to take this on? If so, how?
Yeah, this is a good question. I'll answer the best that I can. I'll also say that this is like a perfect question for the support team. They're really good at this stuff. Even if you have a lot of ideas and want to know which one to do first, they're really good at that. I'll do my best. What my gut is telling me is that I think starting actually with a research project could be helpful. I've seen folks post a research project that says like, I've seen one that was like, we just want a list of foundations that we've never heard of before, or we want to know the types of research grants that we should be applying to in this niche field of, it was like water technology or something. And they found a research person who, researched it and gave them a list. So I'd actually be really curious to see if this would be a project that we posted as research as a first step of just getting this information and seeing what they can find. And then maybe going on to the next project, which is then using that data.
I just wanted to emphasize as well the peer connections. One of the reasons that I got really excited about a whole avenue of projects that I didn't even know was possible was because I had seen that Yolanda had asked for some social media support or something. And I was like, oh, they do that? And, it was just these kinds of things that I didn't know. And so something I would love, and I'm not sure if this is a CACF question or a Catchafire question, though I know I've posed it before, allowing organizations on Catchafire to follow each other. Like when I'm able, I don't really see what Sarat is doing or what Maureen is. I don't see what other organizations in my community are doing. And it's also not that easy to see what organizations that are similar to mine are doing. And that's, I got a lot of information that way by doing that. I think that peer discussion is really important, because I would not have thought about, and that's why I was so glad to be here to say, look, this is all the stuff that I've done, and because, again, not everybody really closely reads that 1980 Sears Roebuck holiday catalog. I do. So there's so much stuff in there. And I think we could learn from each other. And I know I've been directed in the past to there's a founders meetup or something that's there. But I've never really done that because I don't know, I just haven't. But I don't know. I just wanted to put that out there as well. And yeah, so the peer support, and yeah, I think that's it for now. Just encouraging that.
That's a great idea. I know we've talked about that, especially with people being more remote lately, just doing the connective tissue. If people are interested in being there's a Slack group for executive directors, there is that. The other thing that might be interesting for folks is being able to follow the impact page. I'll drop it in the chat now. So it's a kind of one focus specifically on your cohort. It's interesting, you'll scroll through and see what organizations in your area have been posting about. So it's an idea, you can kind of see both what people are posting and who they're matching with, which could be good too. And that I think could be helpful. If you see folks that you could even reach out to them and say like, how did you do it? How is it going? That could be something you're interested in. I find it's kind of a nice and interesting read for me too. So feel free for that. But yeah, it's a great idea.
Great. Again, thank you all to continue the gratitude theme from earlier. I am sincerely grateful to Sarat, Tina, Lisa and Niyat, along with Ayana in the background helping out, for helping put this together. It'll be available kind of in a couple of days through our website, I believe. If you want to walk through Lisa's tutorial again and go at a slower pace as you're posting your first project, that would be great. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me, but especially the folks at Catchafire. It's help@catchafire.org. They are top-notch professionals in helping navigate this stuff. I will end with the note about what the future looks like for CACF and Catchafire. As Ayana mentioned, the first cohort started in October of last year. We recognize that it has been a crazy year for just about everybody. We are still blown away by the amount of engagement we've had in this first cohort. The benchmark statistics we got from Catchafire were somewhere around 25 to 35% of organizations engaged, and within a couple of months we had already blown those expectations away. So we are anticipating a second year of Catchafire. We don't know exactly what form that takes and how organizations with subscriptions in this round and this cohort will roll over into the next round. More information about that coming out in June, we expect, but it's not going away anytime soon. And especially for folks who are using it and finding value in it, we anticipate finding a way for you to continue that relationship for an additional year and then potentially beyond. So we have made it to 101. Thank you so much. For anybody who wants to stick around and ask any other questions, I'm happy to stay on the line.
It's a little while as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lisa. But otherwise, I hope you all have a great Friday afternoon and Mother's Day weekend, and take care. Thank you for being here.